Welcome back to another TradeOut's technical analysis, and in this video I'm going to be going over Uniswap. There's been some news recently, potential V3 launch soon, and also there's been a rumored airdrop that could take place. And for those of you who were part of the first airdrop where Uniswap gave away 400 tokens to the users of Uniswap, which, by the way, those 400 tokens today, right now, would be worth over $13,000 if you had held that. So obviously a lot of interest, a lot of people wondering what's up with Uniswap. Let's take a look at the charts. So here we have Uniswap versus Bitcoin, and really, anytime you're trading altcoins, I really believe you should be at least keeping track of what the altcoin is doing versus Bitcoin, because if you're trading it, you want to make sure that you're outpacing, whatever gains that you could potentially be making in Bitcoin, right? Or you want to make sure that you're on the right side of things. And as far as this chart goes, though, obviously it's very bullish. You kind of have this cup, kind of like a cup and handle here, which is, you have something kind of like this. Pretend you're drinking a cup of coffee. But again, this is typically a really nice pattern. The measured move for something like this is a lot higher, it's significantly higher. And, you're kind of sitting, you're not quite at your all-time high yet. I mean, technically, you only, on day 2, you made this wick higher. But really, this chart looks really good. And, that's, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time breaking this down or anything, because I think most people trade the dollar pairing. So that's what I'm going to actually break down. But I just wanted to show you what the Bitcoin pairing looked like. And to me, it looks pretty decent. So happy to take a look at this chart now. And really, you have two levels that you should be monitoring. It's these two weekly levels. These are kind of the two major levels that we have that are relevant to where price is currently. So you had this consolidation here. You had a really big impulsive move up, but you retraced the entire pump and more. So that's kind of a little bit concerning, right? But if you remember, the 22nd, 23rd of February, Bitcoin had quite the move down. So Uniswap being an altcoin, it's not surprising that it retraced this pump. So, if this had kind of went to counter move what Bitcoin did, if this kind of did it on its own, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But the fact of, how Bitcoin looked on those couple of days, not surprising that this happened. But again, you have your two weekly levels here that are kind of governing. These are your supports that you would want to look at. And really, if I took a fixed range of just this price action, because I'm kind of curious how this lines up. So, this lines up really nicely, actually. So I'm going to mark this out real quick. So this is your, let's keep doing that. There we go. So this is your point of control of this price action right here. And I'll explain why I'm in a second, that I'm curious about this. But really, you have your value area high, which is sitting literally where your weekly level is. And you have your value area low, which is sitting where your bottom weekly level is. So this is pretty amazing confluence as far as your value areas for this piece of price action right here. And the reason why I'm interested in this is because I was curious where the point of control lines up in relation to these weekly levels, which it's almost in the middle. But in case we did get a retracement down here, I kind of wanted to see where the point of control was, to maybe see if I could use it to help me line up a potential trade. But one thing that I do want to point out that we should take a look at, obviously, is the volume. So does the volume confirm this breakout? And you can see on this candle right here, this big spike up, you got your spike in volume. So that was that to me is okay, that's kind of what you would want to see on a breakout. Now, again, following few days was pretty rough for the market overall. Bitcoin kind of took a dump. So, this happened. Not shocking that it happened, but it happened. Now you can see on this, you're making new all-time highs. You got another really nice move up and out of this price action. But what do you notice about volume? It's pretty low, right? It's nowhere near what this candle was even. And really, like historically, like you want to see bigger spikes of volume to help, to support the move higher. And I don't really see that here. So this is a little concerning to me because, with volume being so low in relation to previous candles that have, broken out or continued trends, this is a bit concerning. So, as far as like, would I buy right here? Absolutely not. But that's just me. It's not financial advice, but buying here is a bit dangerous, and of course you're buying all-time highs if you're buying here. Like for me, I really prefer to wait for a retracement. Go ahead and turn volume off. We can turn on our pivots to see if anything lines up. So here's our monthly pivot. We have not come back and hit it yet. Not saying that you have to, but I was just kind of curious where it lined up. Where our one pivot lines up, you're already through that. Let's take a look at the yearly pivot. Again, this is a really new asset, but here you go. So you're right up against your R4 yearly pivot, finding resistance there currently. So, this is potentially like a potential pullback area. I'm not sure, kind of with volume, that's what stands out to me, that this could actually come back. And, even if you retrace this weekly, or if you were to come back and retest to this weekly, that would be totally fine. Like, in fact, like that could be a really nice opportunity. So you have your R3 yearly pivot, your weekly SR level here, and your point of control. So like this is kind of the area. So I'm going to turn your pivots off. This is kind of the area. Well, let me take one quick look at your weekly. So your weekly pivot, because just came out today. So that's kind of why I was curious. And here's what I like about this. So your weekly pivot's back here about $30, 30.43, 30.44, something like that. So coming back down to retest this weekly pivot could happen. Wouldn't be anything terrible. But your S1 weekly pivot lines up right with your point of control. So that's interesting. Like this is another form of confluence where, if price did kind of manage to make its way down here, could be an opportunity. But that is kind of interesting. So to the upside, so I kind of like where these pivots line up. So to the upside, you have about, almost $39, $43, something like that. So I'm going to turn this off. So for you swing traders, and I will come back to this price action. I guess I should finish up. But you had your pivot, your weekly pivot sitting around $30, something like that. Again, this weekly level is pretty important support. Like you had all your candle closes below it, had some wicks above, totally fine. But really, as far as candle closures go, this weekly level, like you want to see this hold as support now. So it was resistance, 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 rejected down, came back up, resistance, 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 broke through, granted on low volume. But if price does retrace, back down to here, you want to see this level hold really. Because this, this being a really important SR level, it was heavy resistance beforehand. You want to see it come back. If it comes back down, totally fine, but you really want to see this level hold. You certainly want to see your point of control hold. This is a really important support as well. So if, price were to come down and dip through here, your point of control is another really important support that you would want to see held up, and is also your S1 weekly pivot. So that's another confluence for that. So, if I had to kind of take a guess, I wouldn't be too surprised if we do see price kind of retrace back to this weekly level, and test it as support. Now, if Bitcoin, and I think, again, this is going to be pretty influenced, in my opinion, to whatever happens with Bitcoin. If you see Bitcoin continue higher and, start pushing 51, 52, 53,000, obviously, like I think Uniswap is probably going to continue higher. But if Bitcoin does take a dip, it wouldn't surprise me to have Uniswap come back. And this could offer up a really nice trade, to be honest. So not financial advice or anything, but this could offer up a really nice trade. Maybe, if you were to, and I don't know if I would personally, like if I would set bids or not here, but, taking a long position off the weekly could be nice. I certainly wouldn't want to see the point of control off. So maybe I would ladder some bids between the weekly and point of control in case I get a wick down, something like that. But losing your point of control is really the invalidation for this trade. Like this, if you were to take a long position somewhere around here, I really wouldn't want to see the point of control lost. And then this weekly level is kind of like your last, you know, this is kind of like your last line of defense, I guess. And now if I wanted to look up one more, because you had some consolidation around here. So here's your point of control. You see this wick came down through it. But this is another, I would say it's a pretty important level too, as far as support goes. You know, if you lose this weekly, you probably come back down and test where this wick is, but it would start to look kind of ugly at that point. And, you know, again, Uniswap's at its all-time high. It's obviously bullish. It looks really good. So I don't really, you know, it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be talking about this, you know, anything below this weekly level. But these are your level, these are your supports that are underneath you right now. This weekly being a very big one. Point of control being a really important one because it's the point of control of all of this price action. And then, you know, really below that, it starts to kind of, you know, it gets a little bit questionable. But where I was going earlier is for you swing traders, and for anybody who's been following me for a bit, you know how much I really like Ichimoku. And I'll show you how nice is this buy though. And this is why when you trade Ichimoku, which by the way, I am going to be having a full trading module or learning module on Ichimoku, where I'm going to start from literally day one, beginner level Ichimoku. And, you know, it'll probably be several videos, but I'm going to start from the very beginning, you know, beginner level Ichimoku, and I'm going to work my way up through, you know, like advanced theories, you know, towards the later end of that series. But it should be a lot of fun. I really like Ichimoku, and, you know, I use it heavily, especially when you're trading a market that's trending like crypto is. And, you know, Uniswap, this is a really good, you know, this is a really good example of something that is just trending higher and higher and higher, right? So bidding the Kijun, which is this yellow line here, it's usually a really, really nice idea, because you get, like, this happens quite often. And I have, you know, again, you can go back to some of my other videos where I show their examples. But again, bidding your daily Kijun literally caught the bottom of this move. And from that point, it's a 92%. You're almost 100% move off of that within the span of, like, what? Every 22 weeks? Something like that. So, like, really, really good move though. And, like, you know, when you hear buy the dip a lot, when you have trending markets, you want to buy the dips, right? Well, this is how you do it. Like, Ichimoku really helps you identify where the potential dip could be, right? But yeah, again, really nice opportunity here. So as this progresses, okay, so I'm going to delete, well, I guess I'm not going to delete these, but as time and price progress and Ichimoku, you know, continues, depending on what Uniswap does, if price was to come back and revisit this yellow Kijun here, it would, like, I would be very interested in taking a potential trade there, because, you know, assuming that everything continues the way that it is, could continue to be a really nice opportunity. And to briefly talk you through why, you know, what happened here, obviously we had that market wide, you know, there was a market wide drop or correction or whatever you want to call it, right? But in Ichimoku terms, what happened was pretty simple. And I'm going to delete these lines now. You can always put them back later. That way it clears up the chart. But really, when you're trading Ichimoku and you see how tight, so the blue Tenkin and your yellow Kijun here, you see how when price is trending like this, you see how close together they are. That's how you want to see it. Like, you want to see these lines angled in the way, the direction that you're trading, which in this instance is bullish. It's you're looking for price to go higher. And you see these two lines, they're really close to each other, and they're angled, like the slope, right? The angle, the angulation is upward. Like, it's very steep. That is, like, exactly what you want to see. And obviously you see how price responds, right? Like, price, very bullish price action. Now, when they start to diverge, like deviate from each other, okay, you see how it starts to build, kind of like the Tenkin starts to separate from the Kijun. It starts flattening out here. And then especially when you get to this point and it flattens out and you see your Kijun start to flatten out, but you have this really big kind of divergence, right? And don't pay attention to percentage, but I'm just showing you, like, you have this let me turn this off. But you have this divergence, right? You have where your Tenkan is very far away from where your Kijun is. Now, what happens sometimes when you get this separation and you get this really big divergence away from each other is you get a mean reversion. So all price did when you had this really big separation, your Tenkan was far away from your Kijun, all price did was come right back to equilibrium, which your Kijun is equilibrium. So that put things back to normal, essentially, right? You got your mean reversion, your equilibrium play here. Very nice bid, very nice buying spot. And then you move up for almost another, 100% gain from there. But that's all that happened here, when you're talking in terms of Ichimoku. So again, I have a whole series that I'm going to be starting on Ichimoku very soon. If you're interested in learning how to trade this, please subscribe, click the bell, that way you're notified of when I'm going to be doing this. But also, I talk about this at length in my Discord. There's going to be an invitation, the link, the description below. If you're interested, had a lot of new people joining lately. But again, really nice buying opportunity here and price pushes higher. So in terms of Ichimoku, you can see you're still kind of have this deviation going on, but I would be looking again for me. Am I buying here? No. Could it continue higher? Absolutely, it could. But the risk reward buying here is terrible in my opinion, especially I showed how the volume was, how we got here to begin with, right? Not very convincing, but it doesn't mean that it can't continue higher. But for me, if I'm not in a position, if I am not in, Uniswap trade and I'm looking to get in, it's these types of plays where I would want to be bidding. When you're trading Ichimoku, really nice trend. And you got your mean reversion again, very nice entry. Like this is how you would bid, like how you would trade this. And it would have been a really nice opportunity, obviously. But, Uniswap again, I just wanted to, there's been some news coming out, so I wanted to cover it for everybody. But it looks really good. It's obviously very bullish. Like I'm very bullish on Uniswap overall. As far as a potential entry, would I enter right here? No, I wouldn't, but I've already explained why. And, if you do get a retracement, you saw the weekly levels, the point of control, like those would be the areas where I would want to see that held. And, if we got another kind of deeper retracement, maybe over the next few weeks or however that worked out, I would definitely be paying attention to where your Kijun is. And, your Tenkan could obviously, you've had a nice buying opportunities along here. So here's a nice buying opportunity. Here was a nice buying opportunity. Here you got, you came all the way down to your Kijun, but your Tenkan's also a nice support. But really, these Kijun plays are just amazing. Like they're really, and it doesn't always work out that way. But when you have, things that are trending this hard, this is usually a decent area to be taking a look at. And obviously, you got some flat, your Kumo, your cloud over here flattens out a bit. So again, if price does kind of work its way down, we'll kind of have to see when, once price crosses over to this area later this month. But just something to keep an eye on. But anyway, overall, very bullish on Uniswap. Definitely one of those alts that I'm looking to buy the dip on, if I get the opportunity, just like right here. And, this is one that I will probably continue to monitor. Wouldn't be surprised to see some videos or, some of the videos I will talk about Uniswap just to kind of keep up, see where we're at. Hope you enjoyed the video and smash the like button if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next video. Trade safe out there.